How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to a, whoops, make sure my camera's on and working here. There we go. All right, welcome to another live stream here on Jazz Lesson Videos. Today we're going to be tackling some transcription, so looking forward to going through that. I will be keeping an eye on the chat, the live chat, so if you have any questions during the masterclass, feel free to ask me things live here, and I'd love to chat with you guys. So I'm going to play a little, have some people joining. Getting into this transcription topic, trying to play some transcribed lines that I'm working on too in that solo. So like I said, I'd love to hear your input on some of these things that we're going to be talking about today with transcription, and all of the things that we'll be tackling are going to be things that I studied with Chad Lefkowitz-Brown when I was taking lessons with him during my undergrad, and are all a part of joining this live stream. If you use RD5 on any of the products that we're talking about today, during this live stream, you can get 5% off your purchase. So a little bit of a good thing for you, and a little thank you for coming. So highly recommend these books. I would not be the player Chad has made through Jazz Lesson Videos. So excited to be here and working with this stuff with you guys. So we're going to tackle this in 3 different sections. The first one is we're going to take a phrase that's already been transcribed, and we're going to kind of think about it in a couple different ways and how we can apply it to our improvising. Then we're going to look at a Coltrane solo, a snippet of a Coltrane solo, and talk about some different aspects in that Coltrane solo. Talking about harmony, analyzing how I transcribe, that kind of thing, and even the details of transcription, like the articulation and the influence, the nuance, the masterclass on transcription, which is so important. Probably the number one thing that I practice, or have been practicing at least for the last, 10 or 15 years of my life. So let's jump right into these books that you can purchase there for that. So these are what we call tonality phrases. I talked about these a little bit last time in my masterclass about pentatonics. Basically, tonality phrases are phrases where we are showing or giving the sound of a specific chord, in this case, major 7 chords. And I'm going to pick this first one here on F major 7. So this is something that, you could transcribe maybe from somebody, or find in like an etude book, or find in a transcription book. Here is the line. 1, 2, 3. So we're getting that sound of F major 7. So that's the sound that we're giving off, right? So to me, there's a couple ways we can analyze this. In the line or in the sound of F major, we can apply a number in the that goes along with the scale of the chord that in F major, right? So if F major has 7 notes, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, we just associate a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 1, G is 9 or 2. Right? So we just associate, and we create like a little number pattern that has that whole line in that system. So that's like kind of a way to memorize it, or to put this in different keys, because you didn't just apply that number system to a new scale or a new key center. That's one way to do it. Other ways, intervals. You know, you can say, okay, I have the interval of a whole step here, and then I go up a minor third, then I go up another whole step, and you know, that way's a little bit more complicated, but definitely a way you can do it. You can also associate this sound with maybe a different scale. Obviously, F major has 7 modes, 7 different scales from that same chord, right? So you can think about this maybe in C7. There's no B naturals or B flats, so it could be C7. It could also be G minor or G7, or it sounds the most like. Right? So to me, I think it sounds the most like F major. That kind of gives me the sound. Maybe G minor, but pretty much F major. So after I've played this through a couple times, you know, maybe repetition 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, however, maybe a tune that I know that has F major or a similar mode, like we just talked about, maybe G minor or D minor or something, that has this, right? So one of the tunes that we're going to be working on today is I Hear a Rhapsody, and that's what we're going to be checking out this John Coltrane solo on. So I Hear Rhapsody has a 2-5 going to F major, right? So let me pull up. I'm going to use my iReal Pro system here. So if we look up I Hear a Rhapsody, and this is in B flat, we have this kind of altered 2-5 going to F major. So that's one section where we could play this. Also, F to B flat to A to D, we could probably sneak the line in somewhere here where the F major tonality is being used. Again, D minor is one of those tonalities that we talked about. So maybe the best place would be the beginning of I Hear a Rhapsody, right? So let me make myself a little smaller here. And we'll have these two things kind of be here together. You should be able to see my whole screen. So with this tonality phrase, I want to try and insert it right at the beginning of the form, play it up into maybe the B flat 7 chord, and then I'm going to improvise some more, like around the phrase. So if you know the tune I Hear Rhapsody, sorry, I always get this one mixed up with Solar, you know, and You and the Night and the Music, all in that D minor, like Softly as the Morning Sunrise. But this one is. So my goal is to try and play that tonality phrase just like it's written, starting on D minor, play it all the way for like at least two and a half bars, and then start improvising after that. 1, 2, 1, 2, that time I started on the second measure and I played it, right? So you want to just kind of like loop the same section of chord changes and always try and apply the one thing you're practicing, right? Which is this tonality phrase. So even a section of the tonality phrase, the whole tonality phrase, you're just trying to implement it in those 3 measures that you know has the sound of that F major tonality, right? I'll do another example. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, Another section that you could do it on would be on the major chord itself. Maybe pick your favorite measure from the tonality phrase. So maybe your favorite measure is, right? So from there is where you want to insert the line into the phrase. So then I'll play, 6 bars of my own improvising over the first A of I Hear Rhapsody. Then right when I get to F major, I'm going to play, right? 1, 2, 2, sorry. I'm going to not start with the tonality phrase. 1, 2, just implement that little part of the phrase, or D minor, G minor, C, apply to anything you transcribe. And there's kind of a second part to this too, where you can also try and purposely make this work over something that it doesn't come from. So for instance, a tritone away, right? So maybe on like a tune that has a section of B7 or that kind of tonality, like maybe on the bridge of I Hear Rhapsody. Whoops. There we go. B7 A minor. Not really a ton of common tones with F major, right? I guess A minor has C natural, A minor has E natural, but F natural sounds a little bit bizarre on it. Has D natural. So how can we make part of this line work over the bridge? So let's say these 4 bars, or maybe these 5 bars here. So if I were to play just the chords, or just the arpeggios, that would be like the 5 bars just kind of played diatonically, right? You know, not necessarily works. So how can we use that? So I'm going to see where the most common tones are in this line with like with A minor 7. Well, G, C, A, D, G, G, F, sure, passing tone, G, A. So that lands on A. So I'm going to try and incorporate that into my phrase here while still trying to play the tune. All right, let me move this down. Perfect. So I'm going to play... Try it again. 1, 2, Do it one more time. 1, Right. Maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll try and play this phrase here. On the D minor section. So maybe I'll flip the measures here. So I'll go G, C, A, D, G on the A minor measure, and then I'll play this phrase on the D minor measure. See if I can handle it. So, you know, just kind of experimenting with improvising with what you're learning, you know. You always want to be creating new things, even with the things that you're learning, as well as a theory technique and a ear training technique, you know. You want to be so versatile and know the phrase so well, harmonically, you know, theoretically in your ear, that you want to try and apply it to as many different parts of a song as possible, you know. Taking the same phrase and making it work over a ton of different chord changes. Very valuable. And it makes you feel like a Superman when you can get it down, because then it's like, man, you start to hear lines that you've transcribed that can work over the whole tune, you know? It feels very, I think it's a very freeing feeling. And this is the way that I practice it. It's just taking, you know, lines from a transcription or an etude book or whatever and applying it to a whole tune. Bridge section. How can I make it work here? How can I make it work on something that I know is inside, like we did at the beginning? And then moving it throughout the keys and such. I think that's a super important aspect of the chat that has any live questions. Please let me know. I'd love to chat with you guys and see what you're thinking about everything. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them up in the chat as I get up our next section here. I Hear Rhapsody is a fantastic tune, by the way. I'm glad that we're tackling it here. I'm going to make myself a little smaller so we can look at the changes here. Cool. How's it going, Sam? Good to see you, man. And if you guys look in the chat, there is a Jazz Listen Videos download PDF package there. And like I said, $5 off with RD5 on the PDF package. So definitely take advantage of that. All right. So if there's no questions right now, I'm just going to continue moving forward. Like I said, anytime there is any questions, just let me know. I'll be happy to answer them here. So continuing with I Hear Rhapsody, this is the John Coltrane solo here. That is fine for everything. So there's a little solo break, and then we have one chorus here that's transcribed. And we're going to talk about little sections of this and how we're going to transcribing it myself and going through that. So let's just listen to it first. we'll just skip to his solo, and then we'll talk about how we're going to practice it here. So beautiful and so melodic, and just the melodies are so beautiful. Another reason why I really like tackling this solo is that I Hear Rhapsody has a lot of repeating changes, right? Repeating the A sections are all the same. The 2/5s are repeated a lot, so you can really see an artist be creative with the same chord changes that are reoccurring all the time, right? It's not like stablemates or like more difficult songs or like what was the one I was just thinking of? Not Cherokee. Stablemates. Cyclic episodes. That's like a really tough tune. Where the changes like never repeat. It's always like brand new changes. Bolivia is another one through the whole form. So you can just transcribe one solo of this Coltrane thing, or on someone playing I Hear Rhapsody, and get a ton of information on the same changes, which is really interesting, and how they're attacking them differently in different parts of their solo, different parts of the chorus, even though the changes are reoccurring. So I think it's very beneficial to look at tunes and transcribe kind of for things that repeat themselves, to kind of see how people attack that. So anyway, first off, what I want to talk about is how I transcribe and how I like to go about transcribing. So if I didn't have the solo and was just listening to the record, first of all, there's no shame in slowing things down. I think that's some weird stereotype that's like, oh man, you're going to hurt your ears, or you're not a good enough musician if you slow things down. I don't really believe in that. I slow things down all the time, and I know other professional musicians that slow down solos all the time when they transcribe. So that's first off the bat. Don't worry about not slowing something down. I think that's totally cool. Second part is using an application, or even the feature on YouTube or whatever, to loop things, like very small chunks. That's what I do. Sometimes it's like a half a second, depending on how fast the line is, or maybe a full second or 2 seconds, where I just loop it over and over again. And even after I feel like I've got it down, I play it maybe 3 or 4 more times. So for example, let's go to kind of a notier section, like here at 15. He plays that pretty quick. So for me, I would loop that over and over and over again. I would hear him play it, maybe sing it. Let's see if I can find that section in the recording here. So that's at 54 seconds, so I'd scrub back here. Sorry, 53 seconds. There's a cool function where if you hit the back key on your keyboard, it'll go back like 5 seconds at a time. So just keep listening to it over and over again. So the section that I'm really focusing on is the ba 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 da 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 ba da beep boo da. Another good tip for this, as you're transcribing, to look at the chord changes. I think that's important because that gives context to what you're transcribing, right? And it can also give you like some little cheat codes on what to look for, and what to sound like. When I took music theory in college, in grad school, undergrad and grad school, we would have these tests that were like, basically they play chords, they play a melody, and you'd have to write it down. Without your saxophone, without your horn, it's on piano, right? And they, a lot of the times with harmonic progressions, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it'd be harmonic progressions and a melody, right? And my professors would always say, try and get the chords first, because then you can kind of try and hear your way through the through the melody notes as you kind of go through the tune, right? And it kind of gives you like some little cheat codes, like, okay, that sounds like it's on the fifth, and it's easier to start on diatonically if you know what chord it is. It only gives you so many options, rather than 12 notes, you only have really 7, to choose from. So looking at the chord changes while you're transcribing, I think is very very important and beneficial. I'm just going to take a look at the chat. I see some action happening, just making sure everybody's cool. For those of you just joining us, we're doing some transcription stuff. If you have any questions as I'm going through any of this, please let me know in the chat, and I'd love to answer them. Also, if you want to take a look at that link that we posted in the chat for the material that we're going over today, you get $5 off if you use my code RD5. So just want to add that for people that are just joining us here. So anyway, going back to I Hear Rhapsody, that one line, I would keep it going, looping it over and over again, trying to sing it, and looking at where it is in the changes, right? So we know it's right here in the changes. So let's listen to it maybe 1 or 2 more times. I'm going to sing through it. Let's try it one more time. So, ba 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 da ba ba da da da. Looping it over and over again. There's no rush. I don't get it by the 3rd try. I'm like failing. There's no rush in this. Whatever you feel is comfortable for you in the amount of times that you repeat something, or in the amount of times that you have to sing it. There's no rush. Don't worry about that. Just do it as many times until you feel confident about it. But don't rush yourself. So sound your way out, even if you miss a note, try and find it. Ba 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 ba, and then play it again. Over and over again until you really feel confident. And then see where the changes are, right? We know it's on this kind of altered 2-5 going back to F. So G half diminished with these substitutions, C 7 flat 9 to F. So, and then write it down maybe, or you don't have to write it down, but sometimes it helps to stay organized to write it down. And that's your 2-5-1 lick that we're going to now apply in the same way that we would apply the tonality phrase with, right? So we know in the context of I Hear Rhapsody, this 2-5-1 lick works right here, right? That's where this works. But there's other sections that we can work on it with. But the first application is to use it where it is in the form. So then improvise on the first 4 bars of I Hear Rhapsody, and when you get to the 5th bar, you got to play the Coltrane lick. And you just loop that over and over and over again. I think when I was growing up, so my dad's a saxophone player, but my mom was not. She was a very supportive mom and supportive in musicians, but she didn't play any instruments herself. And I think she probably thought I was going crazy because I'd play like the same licks over and over and over again over an A section just to really get it down. I just play the same 8 bars like over and over and over again, improvising on the first 4 and then playing the Coltrane line on the second 4. Just loop solos. This was something that he was very adamant about. He was like, first off, you want to know the tune, or look at the tune while you're transcribing, so you have that down. And the second part is you want to immediately apply this to your improvising once you feel comfortable with the line. So this line, we transcribed it, we learned it, we know where it went, and now we're going to analyze it, right? So analyzing purposes, we know, like I said, it's kind of an altered 2-5-1 here, but the line itself is like G melodic minor from on the first beat here, or on the first measure, which is diatonic to G minor, and then instead of playing this just as C7, he's playing an altered version of C7. We go D flat, E flat, D flat, C. So flat 9, sharp 9, flat 9, root. Flat 13, major third, root, and then the third of our 1 chord. So stepping outside a little bit, this to me sounds like the altered scale. The altered scale is basically playing your melodic minor scale up a half step from the root of your dominant chord. So he's kind of playing C sharp minor over C7. So he's kind of treating this whole bar as C7 altered, or C sharp 7 melodic minor, I guess I should say. C sharp melodic minor starting on C. Right? So that's a little analyzation. And the cool thing about these lines is that, like I said, that line a few times. So if we go to the first part of the A section, or the first A section here, he does the same thing at measure 7, right? Except he minus 1 note, minus the E natural. And that's the first one. So a different ending. But he's almost like reinventing himself, reinventing the line as he goes through the chorus, right? The second section, it's kind of like a reinvention of that first phrase. Very interesting, right? No, he plays it differently there. But those first two ones, in the first two A sections, I should say, are very similar. And that's something that you can do too when you're improvising. You know, this line can be, you know, kind of reinvented a little bit. When you're playing it. As Train did it in this one, you can definitely do it too. So in the same way that we apply to improvising here in this solo of improvising 4 bars and then playing the line, we can do the same thing with the line itself. We can improvise with that line. So maybe instead of playing, I don't know, let's take the first bar of the line. We're going to keep this the same. But the 2 chord, let's change that up a little bit. Maybe instead of going, so I'm playing like some intervals. So I'm kind of reinventing the line, but still staying true to the thing that we transcribed, right? So now I'm going to play 2 A sections of I Hear Rhapsody. The first time I go to my bar 5, I'm going to play the transcribed line verbatim. Then the second time I go to bar 5, I'm going to play the new lick that we just created. So instead of, I'm going to go, right? 1, 2, So reinventing the line is another great way of taking transcribed material and really making it your own rather than just, copying, which we have to imitate and we have to copy in order to learn, right? That's kind of how we learn any languages, by listening, imitating, copying, all that stuff, excuse me. But also reinventing, making your own version of this line. And you can really, the more that you strengthen this part of your playing, the more you understand this language, because in order to make it your own, you have to really know what it is, right? Or how to manipulate it. So it kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not justifies either. It'll come to me in a second, but it kind of adds to your, maybe reimburse, or I don't know, adds to what you are learning, right? Kind of supports it even more. So reinventing is a big part of improvising and a big part of transcribing. Inventions of lines that I would make or that I would transcribe. So this would be an example, 2-5-1 line. And my professor in college or Chad would have me reinvent each line 10 times. And then I'd pick my 2 or 3 favorites and then put those through all 12 keys. So I was copying them. I was trying to implement them in my own way, which is a very important part. And to step back a little bit as to what I said with how detailed we need to be in transcription, the last part of this that I want to talk about is transcribing inflections, articulations, dynamics, all of the details, tone. That's a huge thing. I like playing along with recordings sometimes. I don't want to say the word vibe, but the overall vibe of the record, or the sound of the record, or the sound of the people that are playing, just like being influenced by them. I'll play a lot along with Coltrane records, like especially the ones like in the 60s where it's pretty open solos, or walking bass solos with Elvin. So sometimes it's just bass and drums, and he's walking. He's doing some very cool lines walking. And I'll just solo over that. So I have to like solo after Coltrane, which is kind of intimidating. But from a practicing standpoint, it's really great because you can take some of the lines that you hear from Train and not copy them exactly, but play with that influence. You know what I mean? Have it in your ear and try and just imitate it without copying the notes. So that's one kind of ground level of getting some of the details or the vibe of the record, right? The other part is to really listen to articulation and inflection. That's something that we also have a package for in jazz lesson videos that Chad did an articulation masterclass on. It's part of the package that we're talking about today. And if we just listen to the recording one more time, I want to talk about how he plays the line at 15, some of the 16th note things that he does, and it's really how he plays it is what sounds like Coltrane. Obviously these are Coltrane lines, and these are kind of famous with his playing, but it goes articulation, his inflection. So let's listen to the solo one more time, all the way through, and really listen from a detailed way of kind of not the notes. We're not worried about the notes right now. We're working about his sound, time, in inflection, articulation. Sounds so good. So, talking about articulation and inflection, one thing that Train does a lot is these high note kind of legato, right? Like that is like I have isms when I talk where I can't even understand myself when I'm speaking. Or like, things like that. Like everybody has their own isms. And this is a Train ism, right? These open, that kind of thing. So I think that's another side of transcribing that you can definitely get, right? It's not always about the notes and the theory behind something. It's the way that you attack those palm key notes. But very legato. Just that rhythm. And then you can create your own lines using that concept. Again, you're not copying, you're taking influence from, So how, playing different palm key, triplet lines or whatever that land on 1-5 or something like that. That could be like something that you write down in your practice journal and then you write your own versions of them. You reinvent them, right? Same thing goes with some of the ways that he plays really hard on this quarter note. Da, ya, da, da, dee, da, and then he goes legato. So it's like a hard articulation and then legato. Really like a downbeat that's hit, and then the next section is legato. So that's another thing that you can maybe implement into your practicing is like make a line where the beginning of your phrase you start on a tongue note and then you slur the rest of it, right? That's kind of an influence of Train there. Same thing with his like scooped notes. Sometimes at the end of the phrase here, be-ba-da, weep, boo-ba. Train doesn't scoop too much, and it sounds almost more like a grace note to me, especially when he does it up high, like what we were talking about, like wah-ba-da-ba-da-ba-dee-ba. That to me is more like a grace note, like an actual note that he plays. But sometimes he will scoop, or have that kind of scooping inflection like he does here. So another thing that you can apply to your playing is maybe the end of the phrase, boom. That's like have a scoop, have the scoop in your line there. And then you use it the same way that we've been applying all of this whole masterclass to our improvising is the same way that you'll apply these things that we're talking about now outside of the notes, like the influence, the principle, right? Same principle of applying it to I Hear Rhapsody. So you'll, or improvising really, over I Hear Rhapsody. pick a section where you want to play. Does it? You can pick in a different spot, but we're going to take that same concept of the line and then input it right into I Hear Rhapsody, right? So this is kind of like, you know, practicing the ground floor level of what I call etude writing. Basically, where you take a solo and little pieces of a solo and you kind of rearrange it and make your own etude on I Hear Rhapsody based on Coltrane, right? So you like a piece of his transcription that you're putting over specific parts of I Hear Rhapsody. So you're writing an etude for yourself. When I say writing, I don't even mean necessarily writing it down, but like you're practicing the same etude over and over again of how to play I Hear Rhapsody in the style of Train. You're like rearranging his solo. It's an SAT word probably. So, you know, taking that same, you know, right? That's the way that we're gonna. That's the line that we're gonna have. So we can implement that. Let's see. He plays it a couple different times. Let's see. Yeah, so he kind of plays it ba ba da ba da ba doo bee ba, but actually I'm gonna play it wa ba da ba ba da ba bee ba. So I'm gonna use that kind of on a 2/5 going back to D. So maybe I'll play that on my last A section. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna play 2 A sections. I'm gonna improvise for the first 4. I'm gonna play ba ba doo ba doo ba doo ba ba da. I'm gonna improvise again, and on the second A section I'm gonna play our reinvented version of our line. So I'm writing a new A section for myself. Right? So I just written basically A sections based on this without necessarily copying it, right? So we're internalizing this Coltrane language. And that's really when I started getting really excited about transcribing. Because for me, it was almost at the beginning kind of like a chore, of like, okay, you know, I got this assignment from my teacher, and I got to write down this stuff, and I'm not very good at dictating, you know, notating. I'm not, you know, my rhythms are weak. I can't really hear the notes. But when I started doing smaller chunks of solos, and immediately putting it into my improvising, it was a little bit more fun. It was like a game for myself to say, okay, I'm gonna really hone in on playing this sound of Coltrane that I have, whether it's a 2/5/1 line or like a gliss or an articulation or whatever it was, and I'm gonna immediately input it into my playing and make my own version of I Hear Rhapsody that's influenced by him but not copying him. And I would do the same thing with Chad. Chad would write me etudes in my lessons, right, with him, and we would kind of write them together. And I kind of saw how his approach was very similar to this, right? Taking, you know, his lines or transcribed lines and just like implementing them. Kind of, they're almost like little puzzle pieces, you know, especially when you're, you know, looking at the form and seeing how they work harmonically, like little puzzle pieces together, you know, that work well. And I Hear Rhapsody in this solo specifically is really good to check out because Coltrane is playing over the same changes a bunch of times, and he's reinventing those phrases as we've seen at 7 and 15, and he does the same thing on the minor 2/5. He plays the same tonality each time. He's got like this diminished sound, you know, over the first. That's over this line, and then this line, and then on the last one, right? It's the same thing again, but just played kind of with an octave displacement. So he's reinventing himself in real time. It's really kind of cool to listen to, you know? So that's my way of transcribing and putting it into my playing that I learned a ton from by Chad, you know, when I was studying with him. And the Jazz Lesson Videos package that we put together is really a blueprint on how to do this. And this video will be up for a while, so you can always re-watch it if you want to take advantage of that again. But we're going to be doing these live streams more often, so definitely in the comments or in the chat, let us know other things you'd like us to talk about. I am also a jazz gym trainer for Jazz Lesson Videos if you'd like to sign up for that. It's a great practicing group where we have master classes 2 to 3 times a day, and we tackle different topics every week, and it's a really good resource and a good community of learning with other people and you know, having a chance to talk with me or Cecil Russell Alexander or Jaden Clark or Chad or Austin, all the guys at Jazz Lesson Videos that help out. It's a good community. So there's links in the description to study with me or anybody else in Jazz Gym, as well as just buying the PDF books. And like I said, $5 off, big $5 off of the PDF package that we have going with this, with the tonality phrase, the transcription stuff, how to apply it, articulation masterclass. That's a very valuable resource on how to kind of go in more in depth into this kind of thing. So before we wrap up right now, I'd love to take some questions. I see there's a good amount of people still here. So if you have any questions for me based on this transcription masterclass, or I guess really anything saxophone related, I'd be happy to, or jazz related, be happy to answer. We've got a couple minutes left in the live stream. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now. I am here. I'll play a chorus of I Hear Rhapsody while I'm waiting here. I've been playing it a lot recently. The odds of them knowing I Hear Rhapsody are probably pretty low, but anyway, hope you all enjoyed this masterclass. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun to do these for the past couple weeks, and I'm excited to continue. Share it with your friends. We're going to be doing more of these. Let us know what you want us to talk about and tackle next, and be on the lookout for more jazz lesson video content. And definitely take advantage of that coupon code. $5 off the Jazz Lesson Video package for transcriptions here. So, hopefully you get some good transcription vocabulary this week. So, thanks for joining, and I'll see you guys later.